Where she at? Where she at? She's at the corner at Jolie's Crafting Corner. Oh, where she at? Where she at? She's at the corner at Jolie's Crafting Corner.
Hey you guys. So for today, I thought that we would expand. This is going to be like a beginner topic for crochet, but I mentioned it in my first video, kind of got off topic talking about it. But I mentioned in my first video that there are, I'll say two main ways. There's a couple extra little things out there, but there are two main ways to start any crochet project. So you have something called the magic ring, and let me let you know, it took me like 6 months into my crochet journey to figure it out, because I was obviously, I told you guys before, I was learning from books, like from textbooks. I didn't really start researching or watching or looking into like videos until I had learned how to read patterns and had gotten pretty far. I was really literally, because I'm old school, I'm 35, and my mind is that of a grandma, you know, like 9 p.m. bedtimes, just generally prefer to be in my house crocheting, if you will. I'm old school, and I like to read. I like to learn from books, like pictures, images, paper. That's my preference. So I didn't start utilizing like how-to videos or tutorial videos until well into my journey. And really, I started to use those when I needed inspiration, or like for blanket patterns and stuff, just watching somebody do a couple of rounds or rows of a project, and I, you know, after I've seen a few, I figured it out and moved on. So let's talk about it. The thing that took me so long, and it is very, very common in the crochet world. You will see in patterns a lot of times they will tell you to start with a magic circle, but in parentheses they'll say, you know, if you can't do that, you can always do a foundation chain and then do your crochet into the very first stitch and make a circle. And you can do that, but you have a seam when you do that. It's a visible straight line seam, you know, in your round stuff that you don't want. So you really want to learn how to do the magic circle. So let's talk about it. This, you see how this is round one right here, this very center little hole right here. And as it grows, you'll see it just gets bigger and bigger, and it works into a spiral, creating a circle. And you don't really have a hole, you know, but you can see the circle right here. If we were to have done the alternate way and did like a two stitch foundation chain, we did 2 stitches, and then we just put all 6 of our stitches into the first stitch to make a circle, we would look like this, but going down wherever it started, you would have like a seam. And for some things that doesn't matter because it can be hidden, but you don't want that. So just learn how to do the magic circle and thank me later. So this was started with a magic circle. This was started with a magic circle. This is going to be a heart very shortly, in a few hours. But I want to show you how a magic circle goes. So a slip knot is the first thing that you actually have to learn if you want to learn how to crochet. You have to learn how to do a slip knot. Okay, and it's basically, you have this, you take this hump you pull this through, boom, slip knot, you see? And then you can put your hook on here, and when you pull, it gets tighter, okay? And that's what holds the very beginning of your project together. So this is what I would do, a slip knot, if I was going to do a foundation chain. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's super simple, but that's the first thing that you have to learn how to do, because you can't really do anything if you can't do a slip knot. So I'm going to show you again. You make a loop. You take your hump. This piece down here, you grab and you pull through said hump. And you pull it taut like that. That is your slip knot. And then you put your hook on and you pull, and you want to make sure that when you pull and it tightens the yarn closest to your body. So this piece right here is what's moving, not the back piece. Okay. I know I just kind of got off track, but that's important to know. That's important to know. But for a magic circle, you don't do that. For a magic circle, let me show you. Now, mind you, and remember, I learned this from a textbook. So I didn't have videos, I had pictures, and it was very hard. It was very complicated. In fact, my husband sat over there on the couch and listened to me talk to myself and curse and cry and be very upset for several weeks as I attempted to learn this from a textbook. So it's kind of hard to explain, and something you just have to kind of get your hands in there and figure it out. So I'm going to show you slowly. Now, I'm sure that there are professionals that have like a step-by-step thing, but I didn't learn that way because I just was looking at pictures and I just figured out how to make that thing happen. So here's your string. Okay, so here's your ball of yarn. I usually just throw it on the floor to the left of me because I'm right-handed, because I just want to keep pulling, the yarn. Here's your end. So with the end, I wrap it around my pinky. I take the string, go over these two fingers once and once more. Okay, so I'm just kind of holding this. This is not really serving a purpose other than just kind of holding. Okay, so you have two strings right here. Okay, changing nothing, keeping that there and still keeping just two right here. I just kind of pull it further to the end of my fingers to make this easier. And you're going to take your hook. Maybe I should use a hook. I think y'all can see a little better. This might be better. So with the hook, you see the hook? With the hook down, I go under this first one, so the one on the outside, under this. I hook the second one and pull it through, okay? So let's do that again. You have your two pieces right here. You go under the first, hook the second, and pull it through, okay? Do we need to do it one more time? Let's do it one more time. Wrap your pinky. Wrap once, wrap twice. You have two pieces, and you do want to leave a tail because this is, just leave a tail. This is a little bit shorter. I usually try to do about 6 inches, no matter what a pattern says. I always leave about a 6-inch tail because you're going to weave it in eventually into, to hide it essentially. And you need to have enough yarn to do that. So we've wrapped. We have two pieces to the end of our fingers. Hook facing down under the first, hook the second, pull through. Now do you see how I have my hook now? I kind of turned it. I have it facing out. Now, this is the tricky part. This is the part that took me forever. And it may take you forever too, but hopefully not. So, you want to you're going to have to pull your fingers out of this little contraption you have right here, okay? You're going to have to pull your fingers out. but you don't want to let go of or change anything. So generally, I will let go of my pinky first, because it doesn't matter anymore. And then just kind of pinch where you're at. Just hold it. Just hold that little thing that you just made right there. And then you're going to see how my hook is facing down again. You're going to chain over. This is what this is called. I mean, not chain over. That's a blooper. Yarn over is the term. So when it says to yarn over, and if you actually ever crochet, you will see this over and over. Yarn over means literally just pull the yarn over the hook. So I've held on to my little thing I just made. I'm going to take my yarn. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm hoping you can see I'm coming over and I'm yarning, like pulling towards myself. So it's on the outside away from me. Yarn over the hook. And then you're going to make your first single crochet to hold this magic circle in place. So you've yarned over. Now, this piece of yarn right here that you have yarned over, you're going to pull it through the hole that is on the hook. So literally, I still just pinch, keeping it together, and I just pull it through that hole. And then to tighten it, you just hold on to your hook and the yarn, and you just kind of tighten it. I know that does not look complicated, does not seem complicated, but when you start trying to do this, you're kind of like, the yarn, it's just, but once you get it figured out, life is good. So, officially, I have started a magic circle. So, I'm going to show you what makes this so magic. So, for purposes of this video, I'm going to do 6 single crochet into my magic circle. You could, whatever the pattern calls for, whatever you need to do. Typically, you're going to start with 5, 6, 8 to make your magic circle. This one began with 6. So, of course, the sizing changes based on your yarn size and what size hook you're using. And I'm using a fat, pretty big hook, hoping that you can, see well. But magic circle is tight, and it's on my hook. You see? It's on there. It's tight. First, okay, one more thing. This is your yarn tail, the one I told you that I always like to leave about 6 inches of. That you just have to kind of keep that out of your way. You want to keep it in front of you. So the working yarn, what we call the working yarn, your working yarn is the yarn you're actively pulling from. As you move along, you're pulling from the yarn roll. So the working yarn is what you have closest to your body. This tail, you keep it outside, okay? This is single crochet. I'm kind of we're doing like several little things at one time. We're going to talk about all of this in depth. So, for the first single crochet, remember we're going to do 6 to make this to complete this round 1 magic circle. So, you're going to working yarn, tail out, working yarn in. You're going to yarn over. So, yarn over, working yarn close to you, tail out. You're going to pull your working yarn, and I'm not going to talk about this a lot. You will see so many people that crochet that will tell you there is a right or a wrong way to hold your hook, or there's a right or a wrong way to hold your working yarn. Everybody's going to have a different idea. You ain't going to get that from me. No right, no wrong way. As long as you can maintain tension, and the tension is the tightness, and it directly affects your stitches, the uniformity. how uniform your stitches are. You want them all to be the same, to look the same. Your tension controls that. So yes, while it takes practice, tension control is very important. And it has a lot to do with how you hold your yarn. But everybody's different. And so what works for me might not work for you. And what works for you might not work for me. I just kind of, you will see in a lot of tutorials, they will say to pinky over, under, or over your index and hold. And that way you're keeping tension. I hold it. So wherever that lands, whatever feels good that day. And if I've been crocheting for a long time, forgive my fingers and nails, y'all. I literally work with my hands all the time, so they're just never going to be pretty. I'm so sorry about that. But I'm going to hold my yarn the way I want to hold my yarn, and it may change and vary throughout the video. You may see me holding it this way, and then you may see me just holding it this way. Whatever works for you. I have no problems with my tension. My projects always turn out amazing. So, hold your yarn however you want to. Hold your hook however feels best. This is how I hold my hook, just like this. This is how I hold it. But you're going to see people holding it all kind of ways. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So, the yarn that was closest to your body, that is your working yarn, right? I'm going to hold it how I want to. Practice. Figure out what works for you. And depending on what I'm doing or what type of stitch I'm doing, different things work differently. So you've got that, your working yarn out the way. You have your loop, your magic circle loop, and then you have your yarn tail. Keeping the yarn tail, like I said, away from you, so therefore this magic circle loop, I'm going to keep it closest to me. And I'm going to keep the yarn tail out. And it's important you have to kind of maintain that and pay attention as you're doing your stitches for the magic circle to work correctly. If you get them kind of switched up on one or two of the stitches, when you go to do the magic trick part that I'll show you, it won't work. So, working yarn is out of the way. It's in my hand. You have your magic circle loop closest to you, and you have your tail away from you. You're going to take your hook, you're going to go through the loop and the tail. So this is your working yarn right here. This is the one you're going to be doing all the movement with. This is the one that's going to be making all of the stitches. Take your hook, go under or through the circle and the tail, keeping the loop closest to you and the tail furthest away. Okay, this is your first single crochet. You're going to, now here's your working yarn you've gone through. You're going to yarn over like we talked about, and yarn over means literally yarn over the hook towards you, and you're going to take what you just yarned over, that piece that is on the hook, right here, the piece that you just yarned over that is on the hook, and you're going to pull it through now the circle and the tail, keeping the circle closest to you and the tail furthest away. Pull it through. Now you have 2 loops on your hook, okay? Now we just need to yarn over and pull through both. So we're going to yarn over. We're going to pull that yarn over through both of these 2 loops, and that makes 1 single crochet. So, and you, like I said, during every step, you have to finagle and make sure that you are keeping that circle to you and that tail out. So, yarn over, we yarned over. Now we're going to pull this one piece that's up here. This is your working yarn up here. We're going to pull it using this hook through both of these loops. So you're literally going to snatch it and then pull through those 2 loops. And that my friends, is one single crochet. Can you see that stitch? That is your first single crochet. So, if you're being a good little crochet student, now is the time that you will find a stitch marker. And I have, thousands of those of every shape, size, and variety. I don't love all of them. I have my favorites. And you're going to mark that stitch so you know that you're counting to make sure you remember, where you're at. So your single crochet is just like this. It's a V. See the V? So I'm going to take the stitch marker and I'm just going to go through the 2 top loops of that single crochet to mark it. Just so I know, like, hey, I've done one. Now, we got to get back to it. We have 5 more to do. Working yarn. I still have, and I'm finagling it to make this happen, but I still have my loop closest to my body and my tail furthest out. So if you remember what we just did, we go with your hook. We're going to go, keep your working yarn out and away. We're going to go through that loop and through the loop and under the yarn tail, right? And then with our working yarn, we're going to yarn over and using the hook, this yarn over right here, we're going to pull it through the circle and the yarn tail and pull up, holding and checking to make sure that I still have my circle closest to me and my yarn tail out. And then as you will see, we have 2 loops on our hook again. We're going to want to yarn over and pull this yarn over, which is our working yarn, through these 2 loops. So you have your hook and you're going to hook that piece of yarn and you're going to just pull it straight through those 2 loops. Now we have 2, you see the V's? V1 and V2. The first one is marked with the stitch marker, and so now we have 2. We're going to do that 4 more times. So working yarn out and away, magic circle closest to your body, tail out. We're going to take our hook, we're holding our work that we've already done over here with this, with these fingers. We're going to go through the loop and under the yarn tail. So through the loop and under the yarn tail. With our working yarn, we're going to yarn over. We're going to take our hook. And if you can, I'm sorry guys. We're going to take our hook and we're going to just pull it through so that we now have 2 loops on our hook again. Holding the 2 loops in place with this hand, just pinch it. Yeah. And ensuring that our circle is still closest to our body and our tail is away. We're going to yarn over and we're going to use this hook to pull this loop right here through both. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the camera and the thing. Through both of the loops that's on our hook. So now we have, if I can get it in a way that y'all can see it. We have 3 V's, as you can see. So we're going to do 3 more. Ensuring still, yarn tails out, circles closest to our body, working yarns out here. We're going to take this hook and we're going to move this out of the way. We're not doing anything with this. We're just keeping it out of the way. right now. We're going to go through the loop. So take your hook and go through the loop and under the yarn tail. With your working yarn, you're going to yarn over. You're going to use your hook to pull through to get 2 loops on our hook again. This is what we've done every time. Holding those, in place and ensuring that our circle is still closest to our body and our tail is still further away, we're going to yarn over again. And we are going to use this hook to pull this working yarn loop through these 2. So you're just literally going to pull it through. Boom. Now we have 4 single crochets. If you can see the 4 V's. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do 2 more, and we're just going to kind of talk through it again. Working yarn away, circles closest to our body, the yarn tail's out. We're going to take, using our right hand, or I can't teach you how to do it if you're left-handed. I'm sorry, I ain't got a clue. Take your hook, go through the hoop and under the tail. With your working yarn, yarn over and use your hook to pull your working yarn through. So we got to do this 2 more times. So ensuring that our circle, and it's going to start looking less and, it's going to start getting tighter and tighter because we're crocheting into the circle. Circle's closest to us, tail is furthest away. We are going to go through the circle, under the tail. We are going to yarn over. We're going to pull that through the circle so that we have 2 loops on our hook again. We then are going to once more yarn over, and we are going to use our hook to pull our working yarn loop right here through these 2 hoops. So you're going to hook that piece and you're just going to pull it through. So now we have 5 single crochets that we have worked into our magic circle. If you see the V's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 1 more to go. Working yarn here. Ensure that your circle is closest to your body and your yarn tail is out. We're going to take this hook and we are going to go through that circle and under that yarn tail, ensuring that we keep the circle closest to us and the tail out. We are going to yarn over and pull up a loop. That's what it's called, pulling up a loop. So now we have 2 loops on our hook again. Now, still ensuring, and you have to pinch. You have to make sure that you're holding it so that the circle's closest to you and your tail's out. Now, we're going to yarn over, and we are going to use our hook right here to pull our working yarn right here through these 2 loops. So hook it like that and just pull through. Now, we have 6 single crochets that we have done inside of this loop. So we have 1 that the stitch marker is marking, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, okay? Take that thing out. This is what it looks like. Here's your loop up here that we were using. Here's your working yarn. Here's your tail. And you're going to hold this piece. So where your single crochets are, here, your V's are right here. They're going to be like this. So you're going to see the side and the other side's going to be facing you. You're going to hold that piece, really just kind of putting pressure on the top loops, the V's on the outside. Kind of putting pressure right there to hold it. And then you're going to take your yarn tail that you've been very careful about maintaining it on the outside away from you. And you're going to pull And when you pull this tight, I'm trying to do it where you can see it. I have big hands, guys. I'm new to this. I'm not new to crochet. I'm new to sharing crochet and teaching crochet. And you're going to just pull it until it goes bloop into a magic circle, okay? So, bloop. You can't really, you'll see the end result, but you pull it as tight as it'll go. So, now you have a circle, just like this, okay? 6 single crochets that you just made into a circle. Kind of looks like a snail right now when you make your first, stitch into the next round is when it really finishes the circle. But that is what it looks like. And so you get it, you can pull it really, you can get it really tight and get it to where you have a perfect little circle starting out. So what we would do from there to continue this so that it looks more like a circle. Can you see that? Okay, and then can you see the V's right here? The V's, this is what you count as your stitches, okay, along the outside. So we're going to take our hook, and if you remember me earlier, I mentioned when you go to tighten, and you pull your working yarn, you want to make sure that, because let me see, here's your hook. You have yarn on both sides. There's a loop on there. You want to make sure when you're tightening that the yarn closest to you is what's tightening, not the opposite way, okay? So if it's not, you just have it on your hook wrong and you need to take your hook out and fix it so that when you pull, not the tail, not that tail, don't pull that tail. No more. We're done pulling that tail. Just your working yarn. And if you can see, when I pull, I'm going to loosen it up. When I pull, the yarn closest to me is what pulls in. So, you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to find the very first stitch that you did, which you should, for beginners, you would have wanted to leave I took this out when I did the circle. I realized that's not what you would want to do if you're a beginner. If you're a beginner, you would still have had this stitch marker in there so you know where your first stitch is. Always mark your first and your last stitch when you're learning. Just do it. I learned the hard way. I threw away 3 potential scarves because I didn't know. I wasn't very good at counting and keeping up with stuff, and it'll mess you up. Don't do it. So you have your first stitch marked, right? And you see the V's. Okay, these are the top parts. This is the side. You see where that stitch mark? Okay, top V. That's 1 single crochet. Here's the sides. Where you put your hook in is where that holder is. So you're kind of working from the side. You go under the 2 top loops. So here's stitch 1. Here's the V. It's what it looks like from the top. This is what it looks like from the side. It's just a hump, but you have 2, right? You go straight in from the side under both parts of the V. You still see the V on my hook? I went through both parts. So you have your original loop here. You just went under your first single crochet. You're going to yarn over. You're going to pull that working yarn through both of those top loops, just like that, and come up. So now you have 2 loops on your hook. And if you remember from the ones we just did, this is going to make a single crochet. So 2 loops, hold in place, yarn over, use your hook. Here's your 2 loops. Use your hook. Here's your working yarn. You yarn over. Use your hook to hook that piece of yarn and pull it through both of your loops. And to tighten that, you just pull and make sure that what the yarn that is moving when you pull is the yarn closest to your body. Okay, so now we have we are on round 2 because the first round was the magic circle. Now we're round 2. We have made 1 single crochet into our original magic circle, and I'm going to go ahead and mark that because I'm going to need to know where that stitch was, because round 3 will start in that stitch. So we're going to do the same thing 5 more times because we have 5 more stitches. So this is the one we just worked through, that hole right there. So we need to go to the next single crochet, and if you look from the top, you will see the V. When you move it back up from the side, you will see that this little hole, this little line. You're going to go under that line. Keep your working yarn out, guys, by the way, like away from you. You're going to go just like we did. You're going to go under the 2 loops that make the V. So the V, the single crochet, from the side, you're just going to go under both of those loops, right? Yarn over, pull, keep this out, pull your yarn over, working yarn, through the V, the single crochet, the 2 loops you just went under. You're going to pull under those 2. Now you have 2 loops on your hook again. And like before, we're going to yarn over, and we're going to use our hook to pull our working yarn that we yarned over through both of these loops. So we're just going to hook it and pull and come up. And then tighten it and just make sure that the movement you see is the yarn, closest to your body. I know I'm repeating a lot of things, but it's important, especially if you don't know anything and you're actually here to learn something. You got to know this. So now what you've already done in the row will always be behind your hook. So I just kind of lift it up and see what I've done. Here's our first stitch that we made. We marked it with a stitch marker. That's 1. And then there's the second one we just made. So we have 2 V's. Let me tighten that back up. We got to do it 4 more times. So, looking from the side, this is what you see. Looking from the top, you can see we just worked into this stitch. So the next stitch is this one, this V, right here. And then looking from the side, you're going to go under the V, both pieces of the V that you see from the top. So you're going to take your hook and you're just going to tighten that up more. Slip it under the 2 pieces that make the V. Okay. Yarn over. Take your hook and what you just yarned over, you're going to pull just through. So you're going to see you have this piece, you have your single crochet you just went under, and then you have your working yarn that you just yarned over. You're only going to pull it through the V, the 2-piece V. Pull it through, come up, and once again you have 2 loops on your hook. We are going to what? What's next? You have to yarn over, and using your hook, you're going to hook that piece of yarn with the hook, and you're just going to pull it straight through both of those loops. So moving the hook out of the way and looking behind it to see what I've done, I have 1, see it marked with a stitch marker? Yes. I have 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 3. So I have 3 single crochets. So that means we got to do 3 more. And to make sure that my counting has been correct, which I know it has been, but you got to do this often. I've done 3. I know that I should have 3 more because we started with 6. So I'll look at what's unused, what I haven't gone into, and make sure, do I still have 3 unused V's? 1, 2, 3. I do. So my counting is correct. That's a good thing. We're doing good. So we're going to take our hook and looking from the side, this is what we look like. You can see this stitch is the one we just worked through. This next one is the one we haven't. Looking from the top, here's your V. Come back up to the side and that little line right there, we're going to go into that line, making sure we go through under both of the V, both parts of the V. Okay, and we did that. So there it is. We're going to yarn over. We're going to pull our working yarn that we just yarned over through only the V. We're going to pull it through the V and come up. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. And if you've really been paying attention, you know we are going to yarn over and we're going to use our hook to hook that working yarn, that one piece right there that we just yarned over, through these 2 loops. So just boop, like that, and come up. And that makes our single crochet number 4. So we'll count. So here's the one we marked. So our first one, 1, 2, 3, 4. You never count this loop that you you never count that. Never count that. So we've done 4. We have 2 more to go. So tighten that back up. Looking from the side, you can see we just worked into this one. The next stitch that we need to work into is this one right here. So looking from the top, you are going to look for your V and you see it. You're going to take your hook and you're going to go under that V, making sure you go under both loops. You're going to yarn over. You're going to pull it through. Keep this piece out. Only the V. So hook that working yarn, pull it through that V, and we now have, once again, 2 loops on our hook. What do we do next? We complete the single crochet by yarning over, using your hook to hook this yarn and pull it through both. Yes, even when I'm trying to go slow and teach you, we might lose our loop. We have to redo it. So we have our 2 loops back. We're going to yarn over and we're going to use the working yarn to pull through both of those loops and come out. Now we should only have 1 more stitch. We know we've done 5. So let's go back and count. Remember, I say go behind it. So move that out of the way and let's count. Here's our stitch marker. Here's our first stitch that we made. So that's 1, that's 2V, 3V, 4V, and 5V. Remember, we do not count the loop on our hook. So we know we have 1 more. And let's make sure, do we only have 1 more stitch before we get to the blue stitch? That's right, we just have 1 V in between what we just did and the first stitch from the last row. So looking from the top, here is your V that you're going to work into, but you know you have to do it from the side. So this line, which I have the same line on this side, I'm just showing you. So I'm going to go into that line underneath both of those V's. So the V is now on the hook. We yarn over using our hook, our working yarn that we just pulled up. We're going to hook it and only pull through the V, keeping this piece intact where it's at, and come up. So once again, we have 2 loops on our hook. To complete the last part of the last single crochet, we must yarn over and use our hook to pull this working yarn that we just yarned over through these 2 loops. Just like that, and come up and tighten. And now you have a complete circle. And to expand this, you know, if I were, like say I'm going to make a heart, you just keep going. So with, obviously this just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until a certain point. So round 3, if I was going to be making these heart humps, I would do an increased stitch into every one of these stitches. So I have 6 stitches. An increased stitch means double. So instead of doing 1 single crochet into each V like we just did, we will do 2 single crochets into each V. But we're going to stop there with the magic circle because I know there's so many things that I talked about that I haven't even covered yet. But that's essentially, that's the magic circle. And that's how you do it. That's how I did this. It's just the initial, I'm going to pull this out apart because we're just going to keep using the same yarn. Literally, just pull it all out. It's like nothing ever happened. But let's talk through how to start the magic circle one more time. So I just like a little pinky thing. And then I take my yarn, 2 fingers, and I go once, and I go twice. And I leave a tail. And I move these 2 parts towards the end of my finger, if you remember. And I go under the first one and over the second one. So under this part, I go under and then over using my hook to hook that yarn, come around. And then if you remember, I said just pinch that sucker. Keep it, just pinch it. Yarn over and pinch again with the other finger. Take your working yarn you just yarned over to get and pull through that hole. And then tighten it up a little bit so that it stays in place. And if you do that and you get a loop, you have a tail and you get a loop that stays in place. Like if I was to take this off the hook, there's my little magic circle, or the start of my magic circle. And remember, here's my working yarn. The yarn tail stays furthest away from me. The circle stays closest to me. I take the hook and I go under or through the circle, under the tail. Then I take my working yarn and I yarn over and I pull it through the circle and the tail so that I have 2 loops. And then I pinch, yarn over, and pull through both of these loops. And when I do that, pull through both. When I do that, and I tighten, that is 1 single crochet. Can you see the little baby V? Yeah. Into our magic circle. And then you just keep going for however many you need to do. For shits and giggles, I'm going to do 4. So that was 1. 2 would be under the circle, under the tail, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through both loops. And now quickly I'm going to do this. 3, 4, and if I know I'm moving fast, but I'm sure you can still tell I am finagling and keeping the yarn pinched and held however I have to make sure that the tail's staying away from me and the circle staying closest to me. How many did I do? 1, 2, that was 4. Okay, we'll do 2 more. And these are just single crochets that I'm working to make the magic loops. I'm going to do 1 more. And we're going to do the magic trick again. Yarn over, pull through. Take the part that has all of the thick part, gently just kind of squeeze those top loops, take your yarn tail, and simply just pull it tight until it connects to become a circle. Magic circle. This took me way too many months to learn. There's people I've watched videos, like watch their videos that have been crocheting for years and they still don't do a magic circle. They still don't do it. They do I'll show you the alternative to a magic circle with the seam. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. It's not hard. It's just repetition. But you can get it. So that's magic circle. So that is the one way to start. So you will use that if you will be making anything that you're working, that starts as an oval or a circle, just, circular. You're going in a, pattern. But what this does do is it works in a spiral. If you're not making something that works in a round and you're making something like a blanket or a scarf or a pot holder or a like granny squares that you're going to connect to make into a blanket or whatever, anything that you're working straight, so you're not working circles. And this is probably the first thing I should have taught you because this is like fundamental. But that slip knot I told you about earlier that we did not use for the magic circle, you have to know how to do that. So I'm going to show you again. Maybe with the white background. You have your working yarn that you're pulling, and then you have your end. You want a tail. So you're going to take it and you're going to make a loop. Right? Loop, loop. Here's your loop. You're going to take this part and you're going to pull it through. Uh-oh. Make your loop. Take your loop, your working yarn, and pull it through. You may already know how to do a slip knot because you learned it like in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or something or whatever. But if you know how to do a slip knot, it's just a slip knot. You're going to tighten it, and you're going to remember, because if you see what I mean, when you pull the yarn, you see the movement? You see how I'm pulling and it's the part behind that's moving? That's not what you want. You want the part that's closest to you. So I have my hook in wrong. So I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to pull. This is like facing me. So if you were me and you were crocheting and you pull, and if you see, let me loosen it up again so I can show you one more again. As you're pulling the yarn close, facing, I've turned, so this would be facing me, is what moves, okay? Essentially, like I've been saying over and over with the magic circle, you keep your tail out and you keep your working yarn in. So we have a slip knot. This is the other way. So we'll say I'm making a blanket or a scarf or a pot holder or something like that. You do your slip knot and then you make a foundation chain. And a foundation chain essentially is literally a chain. And you do as many links on the chain as you need, as the pattern calls for. If you're making a blanket, that's a lot, because if you're making a blanket, your foundation chain will essentially be the width of your blanket. If you're making a hand towel, your foundation chain will be the width, because you will just work in straight lines, going up. So for video purposes, obviously I'm not going to do like 120 links of a foundation chain like I would for a blanket. So we're just going to do a mini version. We're going to do 20 chains for our foundation chain. So working yarn closest to us, tail out. We are going to yarn over, right? yarn over, and we're going to take our working yarn that we just yarned over to create, and we're going to hook it with the hook and just pull it through that loop. Literally just pull it through that loop. That is your first chain. I don't know, I didn't mean, you don't want to tighten it. You want every chain to be the same size. And I just tightened it, not thinking, because I'm teaching for the first time. So anyway, that's one chain. To do the next, you're just going to yarn over again, and you're going to pull through. That's chain number 2. Okay, and then we're going to yarn over, pull through that loop. Chain number 3. Yarn over, pull through. Number 4. Yarn over, pull through. Number 5. And as you will see, as we start to go, you just have these little chains. I'm going to show you a closer, better way here in just a second, because I'm going to show you how you count them. So that was 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was 4. That was 5. That was number 5. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. How many do we have? Because I haven't been counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10. So we got 5 more to go. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 1 more to go. So just yarn over and pull through. That's 15 chains. So we have a 15 chain foundation chain. Okay? And it looks like this. You just see the little chains. So the front part, what us crocheters call the right side, is the side where you don't have the little back. So the right side, which is what you will always have facing you. So when you have this chain, the right side, which is what I'm about to show you, it's what the side that's been facing you the whole time, is what you will continue to face, you. Because when we start crocheting into this, we have to turn it, like we're not working this way anymore, we're going this way. So we have to turn it on its side, and we have to make sure that the correct, side is facing us. And it is the part where you do not see the back bumps. So on the front, the right side, you will see nothing but V's. You see the V's? It's like a braid. You see them? The back side, or the wrong side, the side that you keep facing away from you, do you see these little bumps? Those are your back bumps, okay, of your chain. That stays facing away. That's how you know if you're holding it correctly. That's the back side. This is the right side. All you see is little V's. So you'll make sure that the side where all you see is V's and not the back bumps is facing you. Get your hook back. Go back into your loop. Make sure that when you pull, see, I didn't have it on right. Make sure that when you pull your working yarn, the yarn closest to you is what is moving. Okay? Now it's on its side, and I have the side with these only facing me. You're going to go, here are your little, you don't count what's on the hook. You just start with the very first loop. So, if you see that loop right there, we're going to go just, before in the magic circle, when we were going into, underneath the top of the V's. Well, we don't have V's yet because we well, we do, but we have to turn them on their side. So all we have right now, until we've crocheted one row into this, is just a top loop. See if I can get this out of the way so you can see it. We just have a loop here and a loop here, and we're just going to use the top loop. So we're going to take our hook and we're going to go into that loop. Okay, and we're doing single crochet right now because I'm not teaching you double, triple, half double, any of that yet. So you've gone into the loop, you have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over. You're going to pull through the first loop on your hook, okay? So here you have 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through the first loop on your hook. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through both. So now, for the first time, we actually have a single crochet worked into our foundation chain. And if you look behind where you were working, you will see your V. So that is when you take your stitch marker and you mark it. You go underneath both loops, both parts of your V, and you just mark it. So that's stitch number 1. Now I'm going to tighten. I'm making sure that the yarn I'm pulling is, closest to me is moving, and we're going to go into the next one. So you can see we worked into this one. The next one will be, the next loop will be this one. So we worked into this one, we're going to do this one. So you're just going into one little boop. Now you have this loop, which we keep back here. We have the new one. We're going to yarn over, right? And we're going to pull our working yarn that we just yarned over through just this first loop. So hook it and draw up a loop. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, and using our working yarn that we just yarned over with, we're going to pull through both of these 2 loops. Hook and pull. That is a single crochet. Okay, so when we move this out of the way, we look behind it, not counting what's on our hook, we should have 2 single crochets. So you should see 2 distinct V's. V1 with a stitch marker and V number 2. Okay, and we're going to do that all the way down the line. So from the side, you can see we worked into this one, and we're now going to work into the next one, which is right there. So we're going to go into that loop. We're going to yarn over, pull through only the first loop so that you have 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over, and using what we just yarned over, our working yarn right here, we're going to hook it with the hook, and we're going to pull it straight through both of those. Now we have 3 distinct V's. So that's 3. Now I'm just going to go ahead. Well, we'll talk through 2 more. How about that? We'll do 5. We'll talk through 2 more. So you can see we've worked into this one. The next one would be this one. So we're just going to go straight in. We're going to yarn over. We're only going to pull through. We have 3 loops. We're only going to pull through the first one. Leave this back one open. So pull through, pull up a loop. We now have 2. We're going to yarn over once more, and we're going to pull through both of these loops. That is single crochet number 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll talk through one more. So you can see my yarn. I was working into this one. The next stitch would be this one. So I'm going to go into it. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to pull through just that first loop so that I have 2 loops on my hook again. Yarn over again and pull through both. Now we have 5. See, it's starting to look like actual crochet now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to continue that. I'm not going to talk through it. I'm just going to do the single crochets through the rest of them. And this is what you would do. Now, you would not necessarily be doing just single crochets. Blankets, you would likely be doing half double, double, triples. It would take a very long time to do a blanket and all single crochets. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. But for purposes of teaching and beginner stuff, you have to learn how to do a single crochet before you can do a double or a half double or a triple or anything else. So I'm just continuing to work a single into every chain going down until I get to the end. So I have made a single crochet into every link that I had on my foundation chain. So this is what it looks like from the side. But when you flip it to the top, you will see the distinct V's. And that is how you count. So you start with your first one that you marked and you just count the V's. And then, of course, when you get to working again into it, you got to turn it on its side. And the top lines is where you'd be working. So if I were going to be making, let's just say like the world's tiniest blanket, I just finished. Now I would need to turn my work and go, because you're just going to be going back and forth. So, well, single crochet, you wouldn't chain one. You would just literally, so we were working that way. We literally just turn our work. So now we're working, coming back towards this stitch. And then you would just keep going. So that is a foundation chain and a magic circle. I hope that was interesting. I will expand on some of all of those things later on. Love you guys. Bye.
Where she at? Where she at? She's at the corner at Jolie's.